Imperial. Glory, glory, glory.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to this walkthrough for Imperial Glory. In this video, we're going to be checking out the first drop. I'm going to start top to bottom, show you guys all the different elements making it up. This one is really cool because it's a lot of cinematic aspects that bled into the drop here. As far as, you know, the instrumentation orchestrally being the core focal point makeup of the drop, which is really cool because it's still such a big drop, right? It's still just massive, very heavy hitting, and kind of like swaggy and sinister in its own way. So, you know, let's just start from the top here. These are the drums. So that's the drums there, wrote it in with a MIDI clip, as you can tell here. The standout feature of the drums here is my tight Tina snare here. And it sounds really good. And what kind of helps it bleed through to the top of the mix is this super plate reverb from Sound Toys here. Because without that, listen, still sounds good, but that nice light plate reverb really helps it cut through the mix, okay? And it's just a regular sort of dubsteppy sound of kind of snare. Nice white noise layer to it. Nice transient, but it's short. It's not too exaggerated, right? And that's what really helps the reverb kind of come through. And then once again, I just got the high 2 kick. And then you got to remember, right? When you're doing your drums, you want to make sure that everything isn't playing right down the middle. And you notice that if you're listening on any sort of decent stereo system, you'll hear that the hi-hats and different percussion elements are not all playing down the middle. Things are playing to the sides. You've got that, which has some nice stereo stuff. You've got something in the lower left-hand corner, but most of it is playing in the right side of the stereo field, right? This one playing pretty much right down the middle. And then we've got this one that's centered. We've got this filler hat, which is 10 to the left. This really brings everything together. So you get a nice separation between all your drum sounds, gives you a fuller sound, gives you a more authentic sound. Just a more stereo separated sound that is going to lead you to a more professional result, right? That's the drum section. Now we've got the song design, which is where most of the bulk of this drop is coming from. Take a look. It's really cool. And this is just two elements, right? We've got this. We'll just listen to it first. Sexy. And that is this majestic horn. This is free, by the way. It's the majestic horn. No, it's not free. I forget how much it is, but this is Orchestral Tools. It's one of the cheaper things from Orchestral Tools. And it's just the majestic horn. You can find it on orchestraltools.com. Just put you on some game there. But this majestic horn is just extremely versatile, but extremely articulate and detailed. You can play it in so many different ways. You can use it in so many different ways, and its range is really good. Like the range of it is excellent. You know, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 octaves of range here, which is great. And that is just doing this. Now get the context with the drums. That's fucking head bombing. I know your head's bobbing. Yes. That's just sinister. But to back it up, that is the top line. That's the top line, right? But we need a flatbed. We need a foundation to build this off of, right? So that's where our next element comes in, and it sounds like this. Which is another version of the intro for you keen listeners at a higher octave, right? And this is just a harp, okay? This is a tremolo harp. So if I just noodle with it here, you see it's got this nice tremolo to it. Very, very dreamy. Very, very dreamy. And then I just did some light EQ work on here, some utility work. And then that's it. Most of it is just all coming from, you know, the patch itself. It's just absolutely such a dreamy, very, very Jeremy Soul, which is what I've said was a big inspiration for what I was going for in this track. You know, think Harvest Dawn, you know, anything from the Oblivion soundtrack, just those landscapes that the track evoked, in the tracks evoked in that soundtrack was really a big inspiration for what I was trying to do for in the instrumentation of Imperial Glory here. And, you know, that's just that pitched up an octave. Now play it here and it's frozen just for CPU purposes, or just wanted the particular articulation that ended up coming from it. And it's a lot louder because I put it here and gave it 3 more dB. Now play that here and you notice that creates the static. I like to call it the static because it's like your flatbed. Without, like, think of it as that one element in your mix in a particular section of a song. If you take it out, everything else just sounds empty, right? It's the glue. This is the glue. Play it with the drums right here. Facilitates that groove. I know your head's bobbing again. You just can't help yourself, I know. Play that with the... Oh yeah. I know your head's bobbing. Sorry, I gotta cut you off, but we gotta keep going. So, those two elements are the crux of this first drop here on Imperial Glory. Now, is there, let's see, the next one is the drop design. This is where the group I would reserve for, you know, vitals, serums, you know, specifically drop sounds, right? Let's see what's in here. Low end. And you know how unique that is. If you think about that, this is a drop that is not reliant on any serum preset sort of deal, or, you know, like in the traditional way, like I need a bass sustain, I need a bass growl or lead or a wobble. There's none of that. You've got your majestic horn and your harp, some sick ass swaggy drums, and what seems to be like an 808 bass patch. This is probably a vital patch, and it's being used in an 808 form. That's sick. So it is a bass patch, right? If you play it, but it's literally just low end, right? It's not like a wobble. It's not like anything else that you would think of, like that would make up your traditional sort of drop, right? It's not a harmonic thing. It's literally being used as low end, because in the whole context of the mix, it's just that boulder crater massive low end that you're hearing, but it's really like this retrofitted bass patch, right? You wouldn't expect it, but play that with the drums so you can sort of get the idea of how that low end rhythm is going, and I'll bring in the other one so you can understand the flow, the dichotomy, or not dichotomy, just the cohesion that's going on between these different elements here. And there's not a lot. You've got your drums, you've got your harp, your majestic horn, and then you've got your low end, and you've got screeches for the added spice on top. So let's get that with the low end now. And you notice how the snare is facilitating the low end rhythm. Just that snare, snare. Same thing. Lows, lows. Small things that you have to think about. When you think about things like, oh, I don't know what it is about the song, but it's really just making me headbang, it's making me move. No, there are things. You need to learn how to pinpoint those things. So for me, I'm telling you what those things are for me when I was creating it, right? Now let's bring in the next one, and notice how everything is starting to have that cohesion. Oh yeah. Now let's swap it to the horn. now you've got your last bit here, which is, you know, a calling card of it, right? It's a little melodic lead, right? And it just sounds like this. And originally this was an octave up, just a little bit of an Easter egg here. It was like this. Now go ahead and listen to how this plays, right? Really sick. Play it in the context if I kept it like this. And you see the difference? And I'm showing you this because this is how I go through the decision-making process. Why did I put that an octave lower? Listen to it again. And now the reason is, let's see if you got it right. The reason why I put it in the lower octave is because it's more legible in the lower range. There was too many instruments playing in that upper register, so I needed to drop that down so it had its own space in the mix, one, and also so it was more legible. Okay, so you understand the articulation going on here. Go ahead and bring that down. Now listen. It just centers the mix a little bit more. It doesn't bring that plucky lead up into the nosebleeds of the mix. Okay, it kind of centers everything, and is a lot very, very beneficial. Okay, so you've got those two elements in your drop section right there. And like I said, your spice is coming from your screeches, right? Nothing special, just the pop screeches once again. Play with the drum so it makes sense. But you notice how everything I'm doing is facilitating the rhythm. Everything's soloed together. Once you throw the drums into it, you start moving. And sometimes you just have to listen to these things a couple times to kind of start to understand how everything is going. You might have heard the song, liked the song, and even thought that you understood what was going on, but there's always a different perspective when you actually have all the elements right before you. Okay, so now that should be a little bit of insight to see how this was constructed. All right, piece by piece. Now the next part here, and I'm gonna go over this patch, like how do you make the exile bass, right? And how do you make the pluck? Like, I'm sure the pluck here, let's play the pluck at a lower octave. And it's low cutted, obviously. Let's take the low cut off. So it's got some low end in it, and I just retrofitted it. This is a bass sound retrofitted to play as a pluck. Right? There's multiple sounds within one sound. Sure, you made a bass sound, but that's because you're playing it in lower register octaves, right? Try playing that at a higher range and see what that sounds like. In this case, it's got this nice rich bell tone. Very basic. Very, very sick. Very, very cool. So it's a very, very full ranged sound. And giving you sounds you wouldn't expect from this. You wouldn't expect that from that, right? But that's why you have to experiment. Sure, when I was making this sound, I was aiming for this. So that's what I was designing for, then that's all I was listening to range-wise. But then you play these things and bring them higher, and you get these cool sounds that can be used for multiple things. Now, you'll see here, I got some EQ to shape the sound, right? Took out a lot of unwanted frequencies, tamed some frequencies. But that's what the EQ's for, shaping and sculpting your sound. Now, let's talk about how this sound was made, okay? This is in Vital. This is a Serum preset, Elephant 2 preset in Serum. It's not a stock wavetable, but I know it's a Serum one because apparently you can use Serum presets inside of Vital. They just work, which is such a plus, right? Because I love the Vital engine. Now, obviously I can only walk you sort of through because like I don't have any technical knowledge of things. I just know what buttons do streetwise, you know, practical wise. So that's the approach I'm going to take it from. I used all three oscillators here. Elephant 2, basic shapes, playing a basic sine wave here for our low end. And then this temper tantrum wavetable, which is probably a Vital one, I'm not sure. probably stock Vital. Now, I've got LFO1 here, which is creating this shape here at a 1/2 tempo, and that is basically modulating the level of oscillator 1, the volume, and that's modulating the level of oscillator 2, okay? We're not modulating into any wavetable positions. This is a very, very basic sound. I'm spectral morphing on oscillator 1. I'm using formant scale and data compress for oscillator 3. And then the design philosophy is what you've come to expect from me in Vital for this batch of works here, which is the compression, distortion, reverb. The trick to getting your sound loud is, you probably saying it with me now, is throw your attack up and then throw that low band up so you get that nice low end that returns to your sound while also getting that volume gain from using the multiband compression. Then you make it a little bit dirtier, throwing your distortion into the mix. You can either choose to put it before the compressor or after the compressor, to give you a more clapped, grittier sound on the distortion. And then you've got your reverb, which is just taste. You notice that without the reverb, but with it, it's got that slap back, because that's called pre-delay, okay? And here, that's called the delay. All right, and I have it all the way up in this case, so you can really hear how much pre-delay you can get, which sounds really cool. Gives you a very, very unique sound, which is very useful for this pluck, path that I decided to take. Aside from that's the sound, man. It's super simple. And then you've got some EQ. I've really boosted up the lows. I wanted more low end after doing the compression and distortion. And then I wanted a clear top end. So I just did those easy equalization adjustments there. So that's that sound. Nothing really to it, right? And like I said, I was designing for this sound. Right? But I ended up going with this. Very, very weird, isn't it? So that's that pluck sound that Imperial Glory is going to sort of be known on. Now, the Exile sound itself, is that the same one? Let's see, this Exile. This is Parasite sound. So I know this one was Exile, if I believe. Yeah, Exile. So for this sound, this is that low end sound. That is Elephant 1, another Serum custom wavetable, not from me. Then you've got basic shape sine wave for the low end here, and then you've got speculation, which is probably a stock Vital wavetable. LFO1 here is making a basic sustain ramp at a 1/1 tempo. It is modulating the level of oscillator 1 and the level of oscillator 2. Those are the volumes, right? So that's how that is going. And you'll notice, let's see here, let me play this. Now, I was waiting to see these move, right? But they're not. I don't know, maybe it's a glitch or something. If you go to the effects, you've got the same design philosophy: compression, distortion, equalization, and reverb. Same techniques, right? And when I say design philosophy, it's the technique that I use to get the sound, whatever, in the effects, right? Because that's sort of really shaping your sound up, preparing your sound for what you're going to do to it creatively, right? And that's just the multiband compression, throw the attack up, the low band option up, then some soft clipping with the drive up, and then some equalization to bring back not bring back, but more focused lows, and then bring detail back into the highs with a high shelf. That is the philosophy behind that, okay? Performance scale for spectral morphing of oscillator 1 and data compress. It's literally a version of the Parasite sound, just with Elephant 1 instead. Same spectral morphing techniques. In the end, it's a basic sound, okay? Another thing to note here is the sidechain compression going on. Everything in this mix is sidechain to the kick drum, and what that means here, you'll see the sidechain compression right here. I'm at a minus 32 dB threshold at a 2:1 ratio at 2 millisecond attack and a 50 millisecond release time. And what do I mean by 2:1 ratio? That means for every 2 dB it's above this threshold, then it's going to duck it by 1 dB. All right. So if you're at 4:1, every 4. Right. Every 4 dB it is above the threshold, then it ducks it by 1. So if you went 4 to 2, 4 to 3, 4 to 1, Now you understand what that means. Your attack time, just to sort of go through the layman's terms of your controls here for your compressor, your attack time is how fast does the compression start compressing, right? In this case, how fast after this kick drum hits do I need to duck this sound? In this case, you know, I could have went faster, but this, you know, if it was like an 808 or a bass sound, and there is in this case, but it really worked. That's why you just gotta go by ear, not by definition or book smart. Typically, you'd like to see a faster attack time because you want that compression and that ducking to happen expediently, so it can happen and get out of the way of everything else in the mix. And then your release time is how fast after that sound has been ducked out of the way does it return to its regular volume. And I'll substitute the word regular for original. How fast does it return to its original volume after being ducked? All right. Then your threshold is just the intensity. All right. Very important. Sets the input level at which compression will begin. This is very important. I like to go. I'm always up in the 30s. Always in the negative 30s because it just gives you a tighter sound. Okay. I'm always at 2-to-1 ratios on peak mode. Right. And I say peak mode because in peak mode, the compressor responds to short peaks within a signal, and that's what I'm looking for, right? I'm trying to catch those peaks within all the other sounds, or in this case, what is being sidechained to, which is that kick drum. I need to focus on that top-level energy, okay? So the sidechain compression is really important to how this mix fucking sounds. It can make or break it, okay? Aside from that, the last element we're going to talk about here are the vocals that I did, and you'll notice, go ahead and play it with the beat here. Imperial. What really makes it come together is just that delay, and that I'm pretty sure I'm using like Echo Boy or something only on one, because like I said, I do this is a 3-piece combo for my vocals. I do 3 takes, 1 vocal's playing down the middle, 1 vocal's playing pan to the right, 1 vocal's playing pan to the left, and these aren't hard pans. These are just like, you know, moderate pannings, right? For 35R, 35L. And I'm only throwing delay on the middle channel, because if I throw it on all 3, those are all separate things. They're going to have way too muddy of a delay. So I threw Echo Boy Jr. onto the middle channel here, just on its plex setting, 1/2 echo time here, a little bit of feedback, and, you know, not so much, you know, it's not too wet, not too dry. All right, a little bit of saturation. It's very self-explanatory there. But the 1/2 sort of rhythm. It really facilitates the groove of everything else. So that's really, really cool. Now I'll go ahead and solo these so you can hear the different takes. They're all different. But when you play them together, saying it, you know, it just fucking works. That's how I've been doing vocals for a long time. Aside from that, that's all there is in the first drop here. If you have any questions on a specific thing, let me know. Drop a comment down below, or send me a message. We could talk about it. Till then, this was Imperial Glory.